Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Thomas, everybody really liked it the other day when I kind of eavesdropped on you because I got corrected on the spelling. I misspelled it. And also, everybody's so picky about your grammar, and they say that maybe you should go consult a grammar book before you speak. And I told them hogwash that, with all that amazing knowledge you have, it comes pouring out of your body so fast sometimes you don't have time to properly pronounce the words or the grammar. So get over it, people. Okay, so today, Thomas, we're going to talk about FISA-Gate, the coup d'etat, because there are a couple of big releases that have occurred. We have this 99-page memo that was splashed over the news yesterday, or at least the alt media news, kind of implying that it was the memo, which it wasn't. And we also want to talk about the missing texts from the FBI. Where are they? And I know you've got all that in that noggin of yours, so let's break it open. And one more thing, I figured out that people, they don't want to hear whoever interviews you, so I like this technique. Next time that somebody interviews you, let us cut in with the microphone. We don't have to listen to them. We'll just fast forward and listen to you, okay?
It's mighty early in the morning, Betsy, to hit me with all that. First off, I'm just completely appalled that I've been breaking verbs,
You were breaking some verbs.
And people can't understand me because I talk too fast.
Yes.
Well, here's the deal. If Betsy wasn't here, I would speak so fast that I start speaking in some language no one can understand, and then I levitate and float off like a balloon. So I think we're probably lucky that you can even understand half of what I say.
I know. I know.
I don't know why. The only reason I'm the spokesperson for the Anonymous Patriots is because I can speak the fastest.
No, actually, it's because you can hold all these amazing thoughts and imaginations in your head. Because, folks, when I sit here with Thomas, he does everything without any notes. And so that's why we kind of, just point him around here, there. This is where we want to go. So now let's get to the point. We want to talk about the coup d'etat as it relates to FISA-Gate.
Washington, D.C., and the D.C. stands for Democratic Chaos. I have never seen so many politicians so worried and running around and pulling their hair out. This is tremendous. It's beautiful. Now, the problem is, what is going on is, let me be clear in my grammar and my speech, what is going on is such amazing Trumpism that no one actually understands it. We heard the alternative news try to deal with the 99-page release. They even obscured where it came from, who it came from, insinuating that it was, some kind of gigantic breaking news, and that it was the 4-page memo that Devin Nunes had his staff construct for the members of Congress to see basically what you have called an executive review, or what he called a compilation of the thousands of documents that the Department of Justice and FBI has finally turned over to those 3 committees. Well, it is not the 4-page memo. Okay, alternative news people, save your breath. Go to our article below, and it shows you there the Inspector General's report on the FISA court that was done in December. I've been harping about this for quite some time. In it, we pulled out from that very report the egregious misuse of FISA court warrants by basically the entire intelligence community. Now, mind you, the NSA doesn't really write FISA court warrants requests, but they provide all the surveillance, so they were caught up in it. So I'm going to explain this, but it's rather complicated, but let me cut to the quick. You got the 4-page memo. They want to turn it into a publicly released document that is declassified from top secret to let's show it to the public because it shows a palace coup, it shows a regime overthrow, it shows unbelievable corruption and collusion and criminal activity especially in the counterintelligence department of not only the FBI counterintelligence, but the Department of Justice, National Security, National Defense Department, National Security Department, and the National Counterterrorism Center. It shows that they horribly abused it. That's what's in the IG report. That's why we harped on it. And that's why we said it should not be renewed. And then it got renewed. And we're going to explain that And that's going to be the greatest Trump move that I have seen in 2 or 3 days. He is such an amazing person. What he has done is astounding. So do not be confused. The basically 99-page memorandum, which was also an assessment and a compliance document showing that the FISA court had come into compliance, was released by Dan Coats, who is the director of the Office of National Intelligence. He was ordered by Trump with an executive order to bring FISA court into alignment, but particularly stop all surveillance of Americans and go back to the way the law was before the criminal Bush family entered the White House, and then started writing new rules where the Intelligence Department has been turned over to corporate interests, not even the military. So, what is the 4-page memo, and will it include the 99 pages? It might, but the 99 pages are incidental in essence in relationship to the responses that we've heard from everyone who has, from the Republicans who have read the 4-page memo. And they're all freaking out. And that's why everybody else is freaking out, because we've never heard a politician ever say anything like what they're saying. They're saying Watergate is a drop in the bucket compared to this. They're saying Mueller's investigation is over because of this. They're saying top leadership in the Department of Justice and FBI will go to jail.
Heck, they're even mentioning Fast and Furious.
They're going back to Eric Holder. They're mentioning Loretta Lynch. They're mentioning Barack Obama. They're mentioning now, they're analyzing the text. Let's not go there yet. But they're mentioning the secret society or the group that was formed and the Trump operation.
Well, you could wait for the 4-page memo to come out, but you could also download, here's our commercial, our app, the American Intelligence Media app that's on your smartphone for Apple and for your Google device. What is that? The Android. You can download that thing and you'll have all the dirt on everybody.
Yes, you will, because you know what? We have already told you what's in the 4-page memo. We've been I feel sometimes like I'm yelling, and I apologize to our listeners who are not native English speakers. It must be very difficult. Now, if I was looking at you, I'd be very sensitive like I am right now. I would enunciate extremely clearly, making sure that I paused and I rested. But I don't have time. I now, Betsy, have to explain one of the most complicated things that no one is going to explain to you.
Okay.
What we're going to explain right now. Why? Because they don't understand it.
I want you to do it at your regular speed. Hold nothing back, and say to folks out there, if Thomas is talking too quickly, just go up into the frame on your YouTube and you can slow it down and listen to it. So don't hold anything back, Thomas. Explain to us what we're looking at here.
You see, Betsy, that's a good trick. So I can get a 2-hour talk into 1 hour, and then they can expand it.
Go for it.
No, this isn't going to take that long, but it's complicated. All right, since 2011, Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro, has come in and turned all of D.C. into a lawless Wild West of everybody getting what they can as quickly as they can, with him being the big leader of, the big bomb dropper. So he went into FISA, and he completely gutted it. He completely was in 100%. And by the way, if the 17 intelligence agencies make a statement, that is a statement from the President of the United States. Does anyone know this? That they all work for him. So when the 17 agencies supposedly, quoting Hillary Clinton during the debates, and then later every newspaper and every agency in America, except for the alternative news, said 17 U.S. intelligence agencies all agreed. That means the president orders them. The president is their boss. Trump has shown he's the boss now. Obama went in, and he was in, as according to the December 2016 Inspector General's report on the FISA court, which at the time it hit the alternative news, and people were saying, look, one single FISA warrant swept up 151 million Americans in America. This is to spy on internationals on foreign soil. What do you mean 151 million Americans were swept up and are still being swept up, and they're upstream of everything they say and do on their telephone, their internet, their Facebook, anything. And if they want to, they can target you and listen to you. And in this 99-page report, which was a compliance report stating that they had come into compliance, imagine that, from Barack Obama's complete lawlessness to Trump's 100% compliance. Now, what were they the worst about? They swept up everybody. But worse than that, Admiral Rogers came and told Trump he was being basically wiretapped, and he left Trump Towers. We now know that later. He went to the FISA court and said, wait, this had to be a FISA court warrant. And so he looked and he saw the abuse. So he ordered the FISA court to do an audit. That audit is included as part of the 99 pages of the compliance report that now states, and has been issued by Dan Coates himself, the head of the intelligence community, and is on his site, and it's been declassified from top secret, and it is a real document. I can guarantee you that by everything in it. I 100% guarantee you that is a real document. And of course, it came from the real place, and it is not a smokescreen. It's Trump showing how it should be done. He got the FISA court aligned with law. First off, in 2011, Obama was told, basically, let me put it in my language, you're a piece of lying, cheating, awful, criminal excuse for a president.
Who told him that in 2011?
The Inspector General and the court. And the court itself made a determination that they were in complete noncompliance and that it was egregious and it was on purpose and that it was targeting Americans, that it was going far beyond any minimization rules. It was creating millions and millions of targets, not surveillance, but targets. These are people, for instance, let me put this, they put in your name, Betsy Ross. And then they say, tell me everything about Betsy in the past. Tell me everything about Betsy in the future. Give me even predictions of what she's doing. Show me everything about her. That's one type of search. That is called a query. Then there is a query called an about query. If I put anybody who ever mentioned Betsy Ross, in other words, Betsy Ross, anyone who ever spoke about Betsy Ross, I might get 151 million people coming up because they're listening to your show. So I can surveil all of them because somebody told me that Betsy Ross was really not an American. So I decided to get a FISA warrant. And mind you, 97% of FISA warrants are all approved because all you have to do is say that they have some association with someone outside of the domestic America. Now, that was then used on Americans by the CIA with NSA collection and the National Center on Counterterrorism and the FBI Counterintelligence Department and the Department of Justice. And this is all in the document. I'm not making this up. Read it, 99 pages. Good luck reading it. And good luck reading what is really there. Okay, very complicated. And you have to know what it is you're reading or you won't understand it.
Well, that's why we're asking you, Thomas.
Well, I worked with documents like so. What we're doing here, what they're doing is, in this document, I could go on and on because it cracks me up what they admit in this document. It's one of the first honest government documents that you'll ever read where they're actually telling you the truth and they're going, and we really don't know what, we're sorry, but yeah, we did this. In this document, it says from 2011 until Barack Obama left office, and even before he left office, he was still defying the IG report and years of being told by the FISA court that you were in noncompliance, which means he's breaking the law. Many laws, and he knew it. Okay, they told him to get aligned. They gave him 30 days. He couldn't do it. They gave him till January. And then what happened? In January, nothing had been done. Well, Trump was in power then. So from January, they said, give us till March. And so by March, they had the entire protocols, procedures, guarantees, all in place to make FISA court work lawfully, back to the way that it was first created before Obama came along. Then in April, they put it into place. So since April, 1 year after...
Now, this is April 2017.
Correct. 1 year after April 2016, when Admiral Rogers demanded an audit of the about queries and the queries that were being misused with NSA surveillance by who? The very people who were targeting Trump and his entire campaign. Now, does this 99-page document say that? No, it does not. It only names the heads of these agencies and says, shame on you, you were horrible. You were absolutely horrible, James Clapper. John Brennan, Comey, you're the worst. You didn't even put in any report. For the whole year, Comey didn't even report. But the whole time Comey was the head of the FBI, supposedly there were no proper FISA warrants even requested for any of the counterintelligence activities of the FBI.
So he was just like freewheeling and surveilling Americans.
Without leaving any trail.
This is just KGB stuff.
This is complete totalitarianism.
Americans, you better wake up and be very upset with what's going on in this place.
This FISA court, that is the only court that allows anyone to be surveilled, says in the document, go read this. It's astounding.
Well,
I always tell you, go to the source documents.
Well, I have the link right below
Thank
the
you.
video, okay?
Thank you so much, Betsy. Go read it, but good luck reading it because it's very dense. When you get to one section, you'll see that the FISA court says they don't know how, and the NSA can't seem to be able to tell them how many different software packages they have to surveil, target, and attack. Okay, Vault 7 shows a whole bunch. We've revealed a whole bunch. But in this document, they revealed a one I haven't even heard of. And they said this is the most powerful one of all, called Odin's Eye. What's really funny, Betsy, is you know that you and I have the we have the
Odin and Frigg
Norse names that we've given ourselves, and the entire theme of our thing is that I have plucked out my left eye, Thomas Paine, to be Odin, and my crows go to the left and right and gather information, and I put my eye in the well of Mimir, the well of wisdom. You, on the other hand, go to the very source of life, birth, death, and rebirth, and you go to the well of wisdom. And we take bets on what's going to happen in the realm of the humans because we're sitting up here trying to figure out, you can't know what a human's going to do. We can tell you our best guess. We can show you the documents. We can't tell you what Trump is thinking.
And by the way, that's why our logo for the American intelligence media has a raven and a couple of spears.
Because Odin, when he takes his spear and throws it, it's a special spear. It always strikes its mark, and then it returns to him. But anyway, the joke is that it takes a man and a woman debating to try to understand what humans will do with their human freedom. And that's what we're doing here. So we oftentimes predict, but we don't, well, we predict because we're looking at patterns. And it's very easy sometimes. So we didn't know this. We didn't know Trump could do this. We didn't know that Trump had already brought these things into alignment when he wrote the executive order telling Dan Coats to completely restructure the entire way that all 17 intelligence community and agencies surveil people.
So I just want to stop right here and catch up. So in April of 2016, Admiral Rogers says he says this report needs to be done.
He discovers the misuse of the NSA surveillance.
Okay, so he on his own said, I'm going to investigate this.
He orders the FISA court to audit it.
He ordered the FISA court to audit itself?
Yes.
Okay. And so they spent all this time, and now this document has just been released.
And at the same time, concurrently, there was an Office of Inspector General for the FISA court doing an Inspector General investigation, which came out in December of 2016.
Okay, so all this is going on in the background in 2016, and we don't know about it, which is a good reminder to people that you don't know all that's going on even right now. So this is going on, and now it's been released. It was put on the site, on the official site. And so then it leads me to the question when I read it, who said this could now be declassified and read? Was that Trump instructing his staff there to release this? How did that get there?
You will never hear Trump actually telling you what he's doing. No businessman would ever do that and be able to be successful. He, of course, in my opinion, matter of fact, I'd bet a nickel on it, he simply told Dan Coats to release it, to show the world the way it should be done with the 4-page memo, and to show them the mechanism by which he was spied upon and the fact that he corrected it so it cannot happen anymore.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that. So
that
now
is
we're looking
breaking
at that.
news.
Yes, it is. So we're looking at this 99-page document that shows all the corruption that existed in these offices as they spied on Americans.
And the mechanism
And
the proof.
Okay.
Now, will that be in the 4-page memo? It might be referenced, but it doesn't matter. This was, any of those people can get the document that has now been made public by Dan Coates because they had the authority to look at the file. They were supposed to be looking at this report when they renewed FISA Section 702. They passed it through the Congress. Here's the stupid reality. I don't know that any of those imbeciles in Congress read this 99-page report before they voted. They voted upon their partisan and very limited and oftentimes ignorant views. Trump released this to make sure that he would stick it in everyone's face that yes, he was being surveilled on a massive level with literally, read our report, I forget, millions of illegal activities, but they also show that this is the complete mechanism in place that wasn't Susan Rice unmasking in the skiff. No, this is any of them in any skiff with their own single sign-on if they had the authority doing an about query about Trump. What is Trump saying in his phone right now? How do you think they got Trump's telephone calls with the Mexican president at the exact same moment it was happening? These were NSA surveillances of our own president through the fake mechanism, and I'm saying there didn't even have to be a FISA warrant because it wasn't the NSA and the CIA leading this. John Brennan said he got the dossier. He didn't say dossier. He said significant intelligence and passed it on to the counterintelligence department of the FBI. At that point, they weren't pulling any FISA warrants. So if they did, it was only to cover their rear that they were in fact surveilling not only a private citizen running for president who was the nominee of his own party, which makes it astoundingly illegal. Every person involved is a conspiracy. Then when he became president-elect, it actually became a national security issue. It was an attack on the U.S. government. And when he became the president, it was an attempted seditious, treasonous overthrow. And it still continues. And what's beautiful about it, and we can go to the next topic right now.
Yes,
what's
that's what I'd like to
beautiful about it is the text messages are coming out and showing that the idiot, which, by the way, I named the idiot, first one to name the idiot. I named the idiot who would be blamed for this before Comey was fired. I told everyone that Comey is going to hide behind his counterintelligence department and they will choose a flunky, probably second, third in command, and that he will carry the entire onus of Comey saying he does not know that if there's a counterintelligence investigation going on in the FBI, which he is in charge of. He's in charge of the FBI. He actually has some pathetic excuse in his very small brain to make him think that he can say he didn't know William Priestap, the head of the counterintelligence department, and his immediate flunky, Peter Strzok, were carrying on a counterintelligence investigation of a sitting president? Okay. That's insanity. That's what is coming out.
That's what you call a coup d'etat, an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States. This is what a domestic enemy is. Now, Thomas, let's go to the missing text messages because this story relates to everything you've just talked about.
Yes, it does, because the text messages, you cannot understand what's going on with them without the bigger picture. And I don't know anyone, by the way, in the things I just said, there is one other news person that I know, Sundance from Conservative Treehouse, is the only other person in the news that can tell you what I just told you. And I don't know that he fully understands it because he wasn't an NSA guy and may not understand some of the things that they're saying in this document, or especially referencing rules and regulations that they do not footnote. But this document is beautiful and it's rich. And thank you, Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump, for finally using the Office of the Director of National Intelligence for what it's supposed to be used for.
Okay, now we're going to move to this letter that was written by Michael Horowitz to Senators Grassley and Johnson. And folks, this letter is also attached just down below if you want to follow along. Go ahead.
In January of 2017, at the same time that the FISA court was trying to get themselves from being completely non-compliant and being a completely illegal operation, there was the news that there was the discussion that Comey had handled the Hillary Clinton email so badly and so illegally that it needed to be examined. And then there was the Comey leaks, the Comey perjuries 3 times before Congress, which we said was a ploy so that he could later on plea bargain down to perjury. And that we may still see that happen. But he immediately got some type of immunity because he started talking to Robert Mueller before he came and testified before Congress. So in January, everything was, that is incorrect. I said in January. He came to Congress after talking to Mueller, after Mueller had been appointed as the special counsel. The special counsel was appointed in January. And so for a year, I'm sorry, I said it wrong again. Michael Horowitz's office, Department of Justice, Office of Inspector General's appointment to do his particular investigation, which has been given $100 million, started in January 2017 and has been referenced before Congress by Rod Rosenstein and by Christopher Wray as their excuse why they won't answer questions. So when they go before Congress, they've already been using Michael Horowitz as their excuse. Then we saw what got me very upset, the release of the information that Bill Orr, Peter Strzok, and
It's Bruce Orr.
Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, and Lisa Page had to step down from the Mueller investigation because of their strange behavior. Mr. Orr meeting with Fusion GPS, which has to be illegal, seeing that they are working with foreign agents and he is working for the Department of Justice. Peter Strzok, who was involved in practically everything attacking Trump and hiding and supporting Hillary, as well as rewriting Comey's exoneration. And he was the person doing the interviews with Hillary and supposedly bashing computers and breaking blueberries. That was him. Oh, they weren't broken. That's right. And then he was the one interviewing Michael Flynn. And I mean, this guy was used as the fall guy. If anyone didn't know he was going to go down for this, if there was a fall guy, then they're naive. James Comey had set him up from the beginning. And James Comey kept writing memos because he and Mueller, years before, when they were in reverse positions and Mueller was the head of the FBI and Comey was in the Department of Justice, they made up a rule of evidence called if an attorney general of any sort, assistant, or anyone in the FBI writes a memo, it's basically true. And that's why Comey's memos were being used against Trump and probably were going to be used by Mueller to say, oh, no, we don't care what Trump said. Here's Comey's memo. But here's the deal.
Well, you have to be kidding me. That
No.
They would just write a memo. But that's like the Pope saying he's going to pass something and everybody's supposed to believe it.
This is evidentiary law created by Mueller and Comey. And
These
and Eric
lawyers in
this
D.C. These lawyers do not belong in Congress, and that's a subject for another day. I know we're going to be looking at some really explosive material about the court system. Folks, you need to start looking and seeing what is the federal court system? Who authorizes the federal court system to even be in existence? Because Thomas and the Conclave are going to be taking them down next.
Yeah, they're rigged, and we're doing research with the Conclave and a bunch of other people because we believe that if we can get this to Trump's eyes, that we can basically shrink the entire federal court system because it has no basis for standing in any state. There's no constitutional provisions for such things.
So
and that's how the
that.
criminals like Mueller and the attorney generals in the Department of Justice and anyone in the Department of Justice who came through certain jobs are corrupt as can be.
It's not that they're above law and order. Is what we're finding out is that they have a separate legal system to run all their stuff through.
Now, unfortunately, Michael Horowitz is a guy who goes out and tells corporations how to plea bargain and tells the judges how to sentence. So he's the number one person giving out the advice for letting corporations get off with just paying fines instead of going to jail. So we assumed when he was we assumed when he started this investigation of collusion and corruption between the DOJ and the FBI that he was in on it. Well, here's what's happening. It's really bizarre. Also in December, at the end of Obama's administration, many illegal things started to wind down because the people, even in the deep, what I'm going to not call deep state anymore, I'm going to call the people in the SES,
the Senior Executive Services, Obama's Army,
the shadow government, because they truly are. As a matter of fact, in the text messages, I love this. When the news came out, the text messages were missing. It was written by a lowling, a lower person who's going to take the blame for his stupid letter, which is so stupid it's got mistakes in the first paragraph that are glaringly, horribly awful. I guess he did that so that the whole letter could be abnegated or be denied and rewritten later because there's gross errors in it. But anyway, he comes out and he says some of the most beautiful things I've ever heard a corrupt Department of Justice say. He says that the text messages between the two lovers, the 50,000 text messages, are private. So them talking about their sex in their offices, which is I'm speculating on, but I'm guaranteed that that's what's in these text messages. And I said this from the beginning. The second I heard that Michael Horowitz supposedly released these, which he did not. Michael Horowitz has not released any text messages. And Michael Horowitz did not release any information about Bruce Orr. What's the name I keep calling him, Betsy?
Don't worry, you called him right then.
Okay.
It's Bruce Orr. But
Bruce and Peter Strzok and Lisa, he didn't release any of that. He wrote a letter denying it. It's on his site. Go to the Department of Justice, Office of Inspector General, and look at some of the latest things that he's posted, and you'll see he's fighting with the Department of Justice, calling Rod Rosenstein basically, legally,
But wait a minute.
a liar.
I have a letter here that's in that description box below that is a letter from Michael Horowitz with his signature to Grassley and Johnson, and he says he has the texts.
Correct. But the Department of Justice letter that was just released not only says that they've scrubbed them clean and taken away all attachments from the text messages of the 50,000, they're releasing 385, and I think 10 or 11 of them are so redacted there's not a word on the page. And that's what Trey Gowdy and the other representative was speaking about yesterday when they were reading these text messages and they revealed the secret society and they revealed, some more things that they found in these horrifying text messages. Well, Michael Horowitz, as you said in his letter to the heads of the three committees who were trying to get to the bottom of this, said, yes, he's already seized 10,000 text messages between them during the dates that now the FBI says in a letter that when Michael Horowitz went to get them, they weren't there. But Michael Horowitz already wrote a letter beforehand saying that he already has them.
Well, is this just a scheme that they're playing on the Americans so we don't know what's up?
They're imploding.
Oh, yes. You mean they don't know what each other's doing?
No.
We've got them divided like that?
Oh, they're divided. That's exactly.
Okay.
They don't know what each other are doing. They know what each other are doing, and they're fighting. This is like the war between the intelligence agencies, which caused the FISA court conflicts.
So these are wars of the departments between all of these agencies?
Yes. The
Okay.
Inspector General now is probably going to try to look like he's a white hat and good because he has been used. Here's what happened. Rod Rosenstein wrote a letter to Michael Horowitz saying, hey, okay, I'm putting it in common parlance, excuse me.
Make sure you don't break any verbs now.
I hope I don't be breaking no verbs because, my grammar, it sometimes be syntaxually bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, because I'm from Missouri, I really can't help myself, folks. I have to try hard to speak English. I'm from Missouri. So, Rod Rosenstein wrote a letter to Michael Horowitz and said, would you mind if we took some things that we just found out that will come up in your investigation, even though Sally Yates in a 55 or 56 page legal statement said Michael Horowitz was not allowed to look at Robert Mueller's investigation. Now, by law, that used to be true, but by the new law created in December of 2016, which I just referenced again as another breakdown of the Obama lawlessness, allows the Inspector General, when he decides to look into a special counsel investigation, even if it does concern national security issues. And that's what they're saying in this. And they said you can't look at Robert Mueller's investigation, but the law says he can. And so he's been arguing with them from the beginning about this. And so when Rosenstein wrote to Michael Horowitz, he said, can I release to the public some things that are happening in the Mueller investigation, which there's going to have to be corrective action taken during your investigation. Do you mind? And Michael Horowitz said, well, that's so unusual. That doesn't happen. That's basically not procedure. It's highly, he didn't say unethical, but he said, he used legalese for unethical. And then he said, and then we would have to follow these procedures. That's all he said. He didn't say he approved the release of the downgrading of office of Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, and Lisa Page. Michael Horowitz didn't release that information, and he wrote a letter on his site that says he didn't, which means he is legally fighting with the Department of Justice about them lying and using him as their excuse for doing what they're doing. And we said from the beginning, if Michael Horowitz, in his investigation, found out about the criminal activity of Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, and Lisa Page, he would not be allowed to do anything about it. And he wouldn't release it. That would be so terribly unusual. So now he could release it to Congress, he could release it to committees, but releasing it to the public, no. That's an investigation. He would taint the investigation. So at the end of the investigation, you can make it public, just like the FISA court Inspector General report that I've been referring to, which is public. And now the corrective action of the FISA court, it's public. So Michael Horowitz released his letter in response to the Department of Justice and Rosenstein, that horrifyingly corrupt lawyer. Unbelievable to call him a law enforcement agent. That's absurd. He's a law enforcement corruption leader. So anyway, he has now done it again. But he didn't use Rod Rosenstein's name on the letter. The Department of Justice released a letter, and it said the most absurd things I've ever heard, that government phones that were being misused on a government account paying for those phones can't find the records. That's a lie. And that they had different phones at different times. And during the whole thing, the reason that we're missing those dates is because they changed their phones up. It's all in the report. And that on one time, they didn't have Peter Strzok's into the conversation because he had changed up his phone and moved to a new phone that could capture all the information, and that Lisa Page's was an old phone. And that's the reason that they can't find, because they never recorded the conversation, these text messages. Well, we know that Michael Horowitz already said, sorry, I have the text messages, 10,000 of them. Department of Justice says there's 50,000 and only released 385 of them, and now says they can't find them, which is silly, completely silly. This is evidence. These are the top people in the government working on the top counterintelligence, and they had sex texting, undoubtedly sexting. They were talking about their sex, and they were talking about how proud they were that they were part of a secret society that was taking down a sitting president.
Well, as we've mentioned before, the Second American Revolution really is a cyber warfare. It is an information war. And what I'm seeing here is that the battlefield is getting tighter and tighter and more narrowly defined, because now you have the conflicts not just spread out everywhere. You're beginning to see them isolated in the departments and within these specific areas. So in the end, it seems like Michael Horowitz himself is going to have to face the demon within him. Is he going to flip? Is he going to be a white hat or a black hat? And we're all watching.
Precisely. And that's why We cannot read Michael Horowitz's mind.
And we must continue to inform and educate people as to his biography.
That's what I was going to say. But he cannot make disappear his biography and the fact that he was set up to be, at some point, probably the head of the Department of Justice or the head of the FBI or the head of the CIA or one of those offices. Remember, Admiral Rogers is stepping down from his position. He did his job. He brought FISA into compliance. Trump has written an executive order bringing all surveillance, all NSA surveillance into compliance. He's stepping down to try to make sure that he doesn't get himself in any trouble. He's the only one that came forward. John Brennan must go to jail. Comey must go to jail. Andrew McCabe must go to jail. James Baker must go to jail. Lisa Page must go to jail. Bruce Orr must go to jail.
Sally Yates, Loretta Lynch, Susan Rice. Oh my gosh, are we talking about Obama?
This is the biggest attempt to overthrow our government in American history. If these people do not go to jail...
They must go to jail, people. We absolutely must put them in prison.
And Hillary Clinton has to go to jail.
Oh, absolutely. Lock her up.
And it isn't pay to play. It's that she was the Secretary of State and she was paid. She didn't have to play. They don't have to prove play, and they don't have to prove intent with their emails. Those are the worst security violations in U.S. history, period. It's espionage whether she had intent or not. And also, to give a shout out to Trump, thank you for making your Office of Inspector General for Congress follow through on the espionage going on with the Imran Awan case, which is probably the second, or it's a tie for first for the largest espionage with Hillary's emails.
Okay, we're wrapping it up. You mentioned Odin's Eye here, but I don't know that you ever explained what kind of spying device that is.
Well, as we said, they use Tor, open source works, they use Prism, they use Solar Wind, they use, and one of them is a FireEye, they use, this one is called Odin's Eye. And I guess, I've never heard of it, it was super top secret. I don't know. I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere. Maybe I'm mistaken. Readers out there, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to give you a chance to correct me.
Well, we just haven't done enough research on it.
If Odin's Eye is in any drop, in Vault 7 or any other drop,
Yeah.
fine, correct me. I will correct myself. It could be there, but I had never heard of it. But they say it's one of the most powerful. So Odin's Eye, it's the well of Mimir. It knows everything. So that's what they say this one search device can do. It can surveil. Here's what it does. You can go into any SCIF, any secured compartmental information facility, which is top super secret. You can't take anything in there, can't take anything out. You can't even write anything down. And you can only look at things usually either carried over by a carrier who's standing outside the door, who's going to make sure you don't carry anything out, or you're looking at a screen. Okay?
Well, let's not
go in there
too much.
If you're one of the gang of 8 and you type in your single sign-on password with this Odin's Eye or Tor, or if you have that in your ability through your single sign-on, and there's 800, don't even get me started, how many people have a top secret security clearance that can use these things. You can put in Trump's name and you can hear what he's saying on his phone right now.
Okay, that's enough about Odin's Eye because we need to go and research it. All right, 30 seconds to wrap up, Thomas.
Well, ask me any questions to clarify this. This is so huge. In my mind, it's perfectly clear, but what wasn't I clear about?
In Odin's Eye?
No, about the whole thing, about these, about the 99 pages, the 4 pages.
Okay, no, I think what I see from Betsy's point of view is I see that the battlefield is getting narrower, and now our enemies are getting real names. We know their employment. We know what they're doing. We also are seeing things that Trump had already put in motion even a year ago that are now beginning to have the results. So this is very positive for people who think that nothing's being done. Really, what he's supposed to do? Come out and give a memo to the people? Okay, I'm going to hit the battlefield on Monday at 8 a.m. and I'm going to be using the following weapons. No, people, come on. This is cyber warfare. It's information warfare. We need to fight a guerrilla war, not the way that they used to do with you thinking that there are Republicans and Democrats or people overseas that were fighting. But that was just to line the pockets of the military-industrial complex. So wake up.
I'll say one more thing, Betsy,
Okay.
because I always like to underscore the fact that we were the first ones to point these things out. In the letter from the Department of Justice, with all the lies packed in there about Michael Horowitz and the missing text messages and saying that Peter Strzok and Lisa's private text messages, we can't get to them because they're protected, and they redacted stuff. In that report, it says that they redacted the names of all SES members. Now, you won't know what that means unless you listen to us. SES is the Senior Executive Service. It's the shadow government. So in this report, it says that before they're giving out any text messages of Lisa Strzok, that's funny. Peter and Lisa, is they're going to redact all this stuff and make sure that the secret shadow government names are not in it, the SES. The big lie here is they're only talking about departments that they lie, the Department of Justice and FBI, that they say there are no SES members in, which we pointed out in our report. That's a lie because we went deeper and found that they just call them executive service instead of senior executive service. But in this report, it calls them who they are, the SES members in all branches of the intelligence agencies.
I'll link an article that'll show you all their names and the departments they're in. This whole group of people needs to go.
So if you are thinking that in the 99 pages or in the text messages you're going to get good, solid names, not without them redacting them, folks, and they're going to redact all the names of the shadow government, and as Betsy just said, we've already posted all their names. They should seek other employment, in my opinion. And thank you, Betsy, for bringing up these incredibly important topics.
Glad to be here on the other side of the microphone. Now, I'm going to be coming back in a few short hours, so now you go read Truth News headlines and catch up, okay?
Oh, me, yes. And Conclave members, don't come to meetings unless you've read Truth News headlines and you are current with the news cycle. Do not come and waste our time and tell us what Betsy told us 3 days ago, okay?
That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm giving orders to the Conclave. Sorry.